The village of Alderwick was never on any map worth reading. Nestled where fog gathered like gossip and the river moved with the patience of old grief, it was the kind of place that held its secrets close. Among its crooked lanes and shuttered windows stood a shop with a warped wooden sign. Thorne, Clocks and Curiosities. The sign had weathered decades of wind and rain, but the bells inside still chimed with a clarity that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The keeper was known as Emmett Thorne, the clockmaker. They said he could mend what others had given up on: a grandfather clock that had lost its solemn heartbeat, a pocket watch whose hands refused to forgive time. They said he could do more if you asked the right way. Emmett's workshop smelled of brass and beeswax, of old paper and gunmetal. Shelves leaned under the weight of time itself. Mantel clocks with porcelain faces, marine chronometers with sea-scarred cases, and dozens of pocket watches, each polished until the light limned its tiny gears. He worked at night, his tools arranged like an altar, his fingers moving with the steadiness of ritual. But there was a rumor, whispered by those who had lingered too long at the pub, that Emmett's clocks were more than devices. His creations kept memories. They held echoes. They were, some swore, repositories for the departed. The story began with a rich commission. Lady Marwick, whose grief was the size of her fortune, came to Thorne clutching a mourning locket and a request. Her son had vanished 3 winters past, swallowed by the moor without trace. She wanted a clock that would call him back, or at least hold him near. Emmett listened with the solemn empathy of a man who had learned to measure both seconds and silence. He crafted a mantel clock with a case of ebony and a face of mother of pearl. The mechanism was exquisite, built to whisper. The pendulum swung like a heart trying to remember breath. On the night the clock's chime was first wound, something extraordinary occurred. Lady Marwick claimed she heard footsteps in the corridor and smelled her son's tobacco. She wept and called it a comfort. Emmett, who had been present yet detached, felt the air thicken, a pressure as if someone had stepped into the room and then folded away. His apprentices noticed the watches on the bench shivering as though with cold. From then on, more came to Thorne with requests that bordered on impossible. To hold a last word, a mother's lullaby, the smell of a loved one's coat. Emmett obliged, but whatever resides in gears and springs has a stubborn logic. Timepieces are made to keep time by dividing it, capturing instants and marking their passage. To imprison something that is not measured in ticks, a same, the ember of a life, warps the machine's purpose. The clocks began to change. A carriage clock that once kept precise minutes soaked at the edges of hours like a sponge. A silver fob watch started to count backwards at dawn and forward at dusk. On certain nights, the chimes did not ring. Instead, they spoke in fragments. A name, a plea, a lullaby half remembered. Customers left comforted and unnerved. The village settled into a rhythm of uneasy sleep. Emmett himself grew gaunt, as if his life were being wound down the way he wound a mainspring. He kept a ledger where he recorded each commission with precise hand: name, date, request, result. On the last page, there is a single entry, written long and faint: for myself. The story diverges here into rumor and a single witness account. A neighbor said they saw light in the shop until dawn, though the town was shuttered. The apprentices later found the benches cleared, tools polished, and a clock in the center of the table, a modest pocket watch with an engraving that read simply, "Lest we forget." Emmett was gone. The watch ticked still. Some nights, if you walk past the shuttered window of Thorne's shop, the little silver dial will flash as if responding to a summons. Locals will tell you that when the watch strikes 13, you can hear a whisper braided with the tick. Not quite a voice, not quite a chime, more the impression of someone saying their own name again, for the first time in a long while. A traveler once attempted to buy the watch. He paid with a purse full of coins and a pleading look. But when he tried to leave the shop, he found himself rooted to the spot, fatigued beyond measure, as if someone reached through time and folded him into a memory. He returned the watch and left town without knowing why he had come. There is an ethics to timekeeping that many overlook. Clocks measure what is gone, not what should be kept. Emmett's last act was not solely cruelty or kindness, but the expression of a dangerous wish: to hold what should naturally pass. Time, when contained against its will, retaliates in ways small at first. Miscounted seconds, overheard names, until it becomes a larger, quieter hunger. The clocks in Alderwick did not eat bodies. They fed on presence, on the warmth of a life that refused to cool. They kept a residue, an echo that grows heavier with each borrowed moment. So if you ever find an old clock in an attic and your heart tells you to keep it for solace, remember Emmett Thorne. The solace you seek may not be a return, it may be a slow exchange. Every tick is a barter, a memory held, another moment loaned. Timepieces can comfort us by keeping what we have lost, but sometimes the price is the living weight of something that will never again be freed. The last tick-tock in Thorne's shop still beats, and in that steady sound there is both the ache of longing and a warning. Some doors, once opened, close differently forever.